We have this dairy farm has been going from in the early 40s. My father farmed here before me. It was on a continual rise in production.
The industry flourished from 18 million liters a year to over 30. I think we peaked at around 34 million liters in 91.
In 1992, the government entered into an agreement with the Inter-American Development Bank for a loan of about 50 million US dollars, which was to support agriculture and manufacturing. The conditionalities of those were that we should abandon any form of local subsidies, and we should abandon any control of the imports of milk powder, meats, and what have you.
Almost always when the IMF is lending to a country, a developing country, we'll be making loans, the World Bank will be making loans, and if it's in the Americas, the Inter-American Development Bank, which is a regional counterpart of the World Bank, will be making loans.
So, you know, you couldn't get World Bank unless IMF gave you the bill of health, and you couldn't get IMF unless the World Bank gave you a bill of health, and you couldn't get either unless the Inter-American Development Bank gave you a clean bill of health. Cross-conditionality. That is when they finally had you by two nooses by the neck.
And because we're working together in that country, we have to make sure we're not working at cross purposes. So we will generally agree on what needs to be done.
In conjunction with the loan agreement, and at the same time, the World Trade Organization signed off all the member countries into this new world order of trade. This new world order means that there will be no government regulation in the trading of any commodities.
They're telling you that, well, look, if we lend you $50 million, in return you have to lower all your trade barriers, and you have to compete with us on a level playing field. Well, that is all double talk.
It was at this time that the competition from reconstituted milk started to get severe.
We ended up with having an influx of powder which destroyed the dairy industry. Powder became normal form of milk consumption, and the dairy industry was unable to sell their fresh milk.
Frank Quarry says he's been supplying fresh milk to Century Farm Products for 15 years. After last Sunday's collection, he says he was told that the company had too much milk and would not collect any more for an indefinite period. So on Friday, with nowhere to take 5 days' worth of milk, he had to get rid of it.
Dairy cows have to be milked twice a day, every day, 365 days a year. So yesterday and today's milk, if it's not collected, you have to pull the bung and let it out in the drain.
This farm produced about 3,000 imperial quarts of milk per day. We are now down to just about 600 liters per day. The animals that we lost represented a lot of hard work from a lot of pioneers, my dad included, and it obviously was a very, very difficult decision to make when we decided to convert them into hamburger meat. It's incredible how are we able to get reconstituted milk in Jamaica for less than fresh milk when it has to be produced at a greater cost than fresh milk. It is because it is just one of a product mix in countries where they price some products to carry others, and it's really just a huge surpluses.
In certain areas, the Americans subsidize their exported milk powder 137%. Now nobody can compete with that.
The end of day result will mean that we have no national food security, and that when milk powder finds its real cost, where there are no subsidies in the first world, in Europe or North America, it will be more expensive than the milk that we currently produce. What do we do in the meanwhile? We go out of business.
It is unlikely when the milk powder gets beyond the reach of most Jamaicans, that we'll be able to restart a dairy industry then.
So between the government of Jamaica and the IMF and the Inter-American Development Bank, we ended up with these policies. Ultimately, I suppose our government have been visionless, and